That's your right. Your universal right. Your natural born right to be free. Hotep. This is Osiris Akibala, Chief Elder of the Pan-African International Movement, the Sankofa Repatriation Movement, bringing to you a liberation message pertaining to the issue of repatriation. This program will be known as the Reparation Revolution, because so much has been said in the negative about an issue that is relative to the Black African people. And it seems as if any issue that can be beneficial to Black African people, every Tom, Dick, and Harry attempt to grab a hold to it, twist it, and spin it, and give you all kinds of lies about what the issue is really all about. So I'm here to straighten all of that and to give to Black African people the divine truth about why reparation is an issue pertaining to Black African people and to Africa, and mainly to our enslaved African ancestors who took the journey across the Atlantic to North America against their will and was treated from the beginning as chattel property being owned by white racist, prejudiced, bigot, oppressive white folk. So I invite you and all others who can stand the divine truth being told about Black African people, because it's time for lies to cease about a people who did nothing but bring one of the greatest civilizations ever to be on Mother Africa earth. So, lend me your ear, your mind, your spirit, or receptiveness, and listen to what the divine truth has to reveal to you about yourself and about your enemy. So all that reparation is about, many people have attempted to convert it, to change it. So I want you to know, I desire for you to know, that all who may claim to be about reparation is not about the reparation that is relative to our enslaved African ancestors. That is the reparation I speak about. That is the reparation that has been earned by African people, so that we one day can taste the blossom of freedom, justice, and independence again in Africa, and to have Africa to become a kingdom again. So all of you who may claim to be for reparation is not about reparation. Reparation is not about a check for individual to siphon out and use for their own selfish reason and purposes. Reparation is collectively earned by our enslaved African ancestors who went through the so-called fiery furnace of oppression, as was fired up by a racist, prejudiced, discriminating, lying, and deceiving white oligarch oppressive people. So you have to understand that all that you hear about this sacred issue is not sacred. And you have to be able to discriminate against the phoniness of the issue as presented to you by the naysayers and those who are opposed to reparation, and learn how to listen to and listen for the divine truth as it pertains to that most glorious issue, reparation. Our enslaved African ancestors went through a lot so that their descendants would be able one day, which is today, now in this present time, present to America and all of their surrogates a bill that signifies a debt that is owed to our enslaved African ancestors. They did not come to America, beloved, by choice. It was not their will to be ferried across the Atlantic into a strange land. And regardless of all of the lies that you hear about, our enslaved African ancestors of the time, which were no doubt our great-great-grands, our grands, and our mothers and fathers and nieces and nephews and cousins of many, they didn't just lay down when Lucifer invaded the continent, looking for our ancestors to capture and take to a strange and faraway land. And the enslavement roundup was not consensual. It was not in a way whereby our enslaved African ancestors just laid down and waited for the devil to come and place chains around their neck, their ankles, and their mind, paying no respect to our mothers and our young ones at the time, and haul them off from the hinterlands of Africa to the seashores of Africa so that they could be placed on the slave ships to be taken away from their land and their families. So yes, I have no regret in taking a stand in a positive way for reparation. And regardless of all of the bull that you hear about reparation being an act of begging, and that it is something that have happened long ago and you should forget about it, do not entertain those acts of deception, beloved, because the actions of child slavery, out of which reparation was born, carries no expiration date. It is long-lived. It is an issue who travels through time with our enslaved African ancestors and with their descendants until that very day will come when justice and freedom and independence will be served up to our enslaved African ancestors. Where you said, well, they're gone. They're not here anymore. Why you keep chasing that? that only comes across the lips of the deceiver, the lips of ignorance, because no one, unless you're black and proud and able to identify with time, with the divine essence of us all, with our enslaved African ancestors at the beginning of their time before the coming of slavery. If you are not able to identify on that level, then no way in hell will you be able to understand the significance, the driving force that keeps you going in pursuit of freedom, justice, and independence for our enslaved African ancestors, because they deserve it. They earned it. Reparations do not belong to America. That's a debt owed to our enslaved African ancestors because they endured. They were everlasting under the whips and lashes and evil doing of a people who had no respect for black people. So they endured all that the oppressor, that Lucifer, the human being, could put upon them. And yet, here you and I stand as evidence that they survived for the purpose of having us to come on this earth at this time to remind the world and the devil of his evil deeds and his evil actions and demand freedom, justice, and independence. Be a friend again to our enslaved African ancestors. And that will only be is when America honored the debt earned by our enslaved African ancestors, commonly referred to as reparation. Reparation represent the future of Africa, the resurrecting of a sleeping, divided black African nation to bring unity again on the earth and the location we refer to as Africa. Reparation is our way to freedom, to justice, to independence. Why do you think that America is so adamant about not ever allowing black people to learn justly about what caused the issue of reparation to be? America do not even want the masses of black people to go back into our inner self and conversate with our enslaved African ancestors to learn firsthand of the slaughter, the misery, the pain, the degradation that they went through so that you and I could be here today in demand for justice and freedom and independence for our enslaved African ancestors. Now, I care less about who it is that comes up with different types of phony behind laws to shield, an attempt to shield their evil behavior towards black African people. It's a weakling of a profane mind who would enact laws pertaining to hate being a crime. Where there is no hate against evil, what does that imply? Hate crime as so enacted by law by a guilty, racist, dishonest group of oligarchs, it does not pertain to you, beloved sisters and brothers. You are justified in hating evil, and the Luciferian human being represents evil to you. Why? Well, it's because they stand today in opposition to repentance. They stand today in opposition to render to our enslaved African ancestors what they have earned. It's their reparation. So the one who has caused the issue of reparation to be justifiable presented to them, they are the ones who take the issue and attempt to transform it into becoming something that it's not. And they are so bold in their racist characteristics of themselves and of the issue of reparation until they attempt to be so convincing to the world, and especially the black world, in having you to believe that reparation is not a just cause. No, it's not a just cause to a racist mind, because they are the criminals who have made it so to be for reparation to become a just issue in favor of African people. Many lies are told to black African people about our stay on this planet, about all of the turmoil we have gone through. But you know what? We have came this way for a particular purpose. We are here for the reason given it to be, and that is to bring peace, joy to this world, the black world, in this solar system, on this planet called Earth. Many lies has been told about the divine essence, the God of us all, the God that has no favorites, the God that makes no commandments, the God that do not reward nor punish, but the God that is all just, wrapped in freedom, giving life the permission to allow living beings to live, physical beings to live and to be as they so choose to be. Not enforcing them to do anything, but to make choices for the way they are going to live the life they have only for a moment. So, all of this time, we have been in America. We have been laboring under a hard head and an oppressive hand never to experience the joy of freedom, of justice in an environment that we, the Black Africans, will create for ourselves. It's our right. It's our duty to do so. So, reparation must not be an issue for you Black African people to be ashamed of, nor should be afraid to demand justice, freedom, and independence for you to experience in the motherland. That's your right, your universal right, your natural-born right to be free and to live if you so choose to live, not as somebody else write down their rules of engagement with life to be. No, that's for them. You need no teacher who comes underhanded with intention to conquer you, to deceive you, to have you to think the lowest of yourself. No. And any race of people who will take on that challenge to do that to you, Black African people, they're afraid of you. And mainly they are your enemy. They do not show respect to you by keeping the truth from you. But I'm here to correct all of that, beloved sisters and brothers. I will from time to time be giving to you the truth about many issues that you have been lied about, from God to life to death. But now I concentrate on the very issue that can liberate your mind, have your soul, to give to your mind the permission to have your spirit to run free. So bear with me and listen not to the naysayers of reparation. Neither are you to get tired of hearing of the issue of reparations. That's your salvation, Black woman and man. And you are going to have to get up and show the world that you are ready for your freedom. You are ready to be treated justly. And you need your independence. Until next time, Hotep, and to live if you so choose to live, not as somebody else write down their rules of engagement with life to be. No, that's for them. You need no teacher who comes underhanded with intention to conquer you, to deceive you, to have you to think the lowest of yourself. No. And any race of people who will take on that challenge to do that to you, Black African people, they're afraid of you. And mainly they are your enemy. They do not show respect to you by keeping the truth from you. But I'm here to correct all of that, beloved sisters and brothers. I will from time to time be giving to you the truth about many issues that you have been lied about, from God to life to death. But now I concentrate on the very issue that can liberate your mind, have your soul, to give to your mind the permission to have your spirit to run free. So bear with me and listen not to the naysayers of reparation. Neither are you to get tired of hearing of the issue of reparations. That's your salvation, black woman and man. And you are going to have to get up and show the world that you are ready for your freedom. You are ready to be treated justly. And you need your independence. Until next time, Hotep.